Welcome to Behind the Law with Justin Clark, the show that takes you behind the law and answers your toughest legal questions.
Welcome to Behind the Law. This is a show that goes right into present-day law and things that are happening in your life. And for about the past 2 years, we've been talking about foreclosures, short sales, modifications. Well, now we're right in the middle of talking about the fact that all of those settlements you heard about, you heard in the news, you read in the newspaper about the government coming to agreements with a lot of the big banks and the servicers on the fact that money would be coming back in return to those who had been through foreclosures. Well, guess what? Some of those checks are arriving right now in Central Florida, and that's what we're talking about today on Behind the Law. Justin Clark is with me right here, and Justin, people are getting checks in the mail, and they're not quite sure what the heck they're supposed to do with them or why they're getting them.
Checks coming out of the blue, man. People are so happy. My office is getting inundated with calls saying, Justin, we just got this check. What is this for? Can I cash it? The quick answer is yes. And the long answer,
it's authentic.
It's authentic. It's a real check, man. I actually have this piece of paper right here. Thank God. No one else has this. Everyone's like, how much are we getting? How much are we getting? No one knows. I know. I have it right here, buddy.
How did they calculate it? What's going on?
I'm going to tell you about that here a little later in the program, but I want to go through some other things first and really tell you more about this settlement. Because I know there are a lot of people listening and watching right now who have gotten a check or at least a letter from the Independent Foreclosure Review, or Rust Consulting. It's the same group. Rust Consulting actually handles the paperwork. The Independent Foreclosure Review is the group who reviewed each claim and figured out how much money to give each person.
Did they have to file a claim to get this?
Thank goodness, no. This was a thing you might have heard about that said, okay, you have to file your claim by December 31st, 2012. You have to. It doesn't matter. Even the people who didn't file a claim still getting checks. It's great. Now, the checks aren't a ton of money for most people, but it can go all the way up to $125,000 cash. And I'll tell you who qualifies for that a little later. Most of the checks are between about $300 and, say, $2,000. There's a whole qualification process, which I think we're the only people who really know how it works. I'm really happy. It's a good show. So anyone who's gotten that check in the mail, call me at the office or call here to the show today, and let's figure out exactly what you can do if the check's legitimate, because there are some fake checks I hear coming through with some scam artists, but feel free to call in. But, Rob, this payment is going out to 4.2 million borrowers. The first round went out on April 12th, so people started getting them. It was this past Monday when I started getting calls from my clients saying, Justin, is this for real? I mean, what's going on here? Is this real money? It is. It's real money, and it's great. I'm glad people are getting money. Now, again, it's not a lot of money, Rob, but the qualification process really starts with anyone who was in foreclosure, any type of foreclosure, from January 1, 2009 through December 31st, 2010. So any kind of foreclosure whatsoever. Maybe they filed December 30th, 2010, you qualify. It doesn't matter if they actually went through the entire foreclosure process. Just any sort of foreclosure whatsoever, you can qualify for this. It has to be your primary home. Mm-hmm. And you're gonna get some money out of it, hopefully, and it's really a good thing.
Now, are these foreclosures that the government in review found problems with, or they knew that these banks allegedly had caused problems?
Absolutely, it is. But there's, we've talked about the National Mortgage Settlement many times on this show, and this is different. Mm-hmm. Okay, that was only 5 servicers. This is more like 13 servicers. So we're talking about a lot of people. 4.2 million homeowners. That's a lot, really.
Wow, it sure is.
But you also you look at Orlando as a bit of a microcosm of the entire foreclosure issue we had nationwide, and the percentage of people who are going to qualify here as opposed to Nebraska is going to be much higher. So a lot of listeners to this station and are going to qualify for this, and I look forward to talking to them about it.
We're about to take a break right now, but we do welcome your calls all hour long at the office. Give us a call at the Gregory and Clark offices at 321-282-1055. That's 321-282-1055. We'll be back right after a short break.
I'm still living in my own house, which is under foreclosure, and I'm fighting a case with Bank of America.
Right.
So I just want to know that people like us would get checks, or we would not get a check.
Justin Clark will be right back with more Behind the Law. Welcome back to Behind the Law with Justin Clark, the show that takes you behind the law and answers your toughest legal questions.
Welcome back to Behind the Law. We hope you're enjoying what you're watching here on WRDQ TV 27. If you'd like to call and you don't want to call on the radio show, you just want to call the office and get an answer to your questions, the number is 321-282-1055. We have associates standing by right now in the office to take your call, and you can use that number anytime during the week. That's 321-282-1055. Now, let's get back to the show. All right, Shaw in Leesburg has received a letter from Rust, the servicing on this money that's being returned, but he has questions. So, Shaw, you're on the air with attorney Justin Clark, who's been fighting this battle for years now. So go ahead.
Hi, Justin. This is Shah calling.
Hey, Shaw.
I was listening to your radio talk show just now, and I received a letter about 2 weeks back from the Rust organization. But my house, I'm still living in my own house, which is under foreclosure, and I'm fighting a case with Bank of America.
Right.
So I just want to know that people like us would get checks, or we would not get a check.
You will. What did the letter say that you got? Laura, let's leave Shaw on the line here. What did you get a postcard or did you get a letter?
I got a letter.
All right, and tell us what the letter said. Tell everyone listening what the letter said so we can go through this a little bit.
Okay, you are eligible to receive a payment as a result of an agreement between Bank of America and federal banking regulations. The Office of the Comptroller of Currency and Federal Reserve Board announced in January this payment is related to an enforcement action regarding deficiencies in the mortgage, servicing, and foreclosure process of Bank of America.
This is what I want to hear right here, Rob. Let me tell you, because about 4 weeks ago, Rust Consulting sent out postcards to the people who were going to be getting checks saying, you're going to be getting a check in the mail. So Shaw has not received his check. He doesn't know how much his check's going to be for yet. But let me tell you, they're sending out a new round of checks this week. So I wouldn't be surprised. You go check that mailbox every day, Shaw, because you're going to be getting a check. Now, he's like, hey, man, I'm still in the house, Justin. I don't want to lose my house. It's okay. It doesn't mean you're going to lose your house. We're not giving the house up to get this money, okay? It just means that you were in some stage of foreclosure in between 2009, January 1, 2009, and December 31st, 2010. He was in some point of foreclosure then, still trying to keep his house. This check doesn't mean you're not going to be able to keep the house. It means you can continue to fight to keep your house. And it just depends on the situation that he went through. What were you trying to work on, a modification with them? What were you trying to do, Shaw?
They sent me a modification which was even worse than what payment I was making. So I didn't accept that modification.
Right.
I did pay for the trial period for 6 months, but when they finally sent me all the documents and everything, it was a ridiculous agreement they sent me, which I talked to my CPA, and they said that you'll be in a worse situation 5 years down the line than you are in now.
Yeah, and let me tell you, Rob, I always talk about 2013 being the year of the modification.
Yeah.
And what the government's doing here is really trying to create a penalty against the banks for all of their nonsense over the last several years. But what it's doing is making the banks do better modifications with me and my clients now, because they don't want to have to suffer anymore like this. So we're finding banks are doing modifications. They're doing them better. So if you want to save your house, now is the time to work on a modification. Call me, 321-282-1055, and let's talk about how you can use this settlement in your benefit to try to save your home. But let's also go through this really quick, because I think this is another important part of this Rust settlement that we keep talking about, the independent foreclosure review. Because people come in my office all the time and they say, Justin, they sent me a letter, the bank sent me a letter saying if I make these 3 trial payments, then I'm going to automatically get a new modification, meaning my loan's going to be permanently modified. But what they did back in the day, you would pay your 3 monthly trial payments, and then you would call them. They're like, well, just continue to make the payment, and then they would end up foreclosing on you. Under the independent foreclosure review, if the servicer failed to convert borrower to a permanent modification after 3 trial payments, $50,000.
Whoa!
So, I mean, we're
that's
actually
what we call dual tracking, right?
Yeah, it's very similar, and so we're getting significant penalties here, and we're going to see some significant checks for some of my clients and the rest of Central Florida. So be on the lookout, Rob. Be on the lookout for these checks.
We'll be back with more of Justin Clark as we talk about foreclosures, short sales, and more. During the break, if you'd like to call the law offices, you're more than welcome to do so at 321-282-1055. That's 321-282-1055. We'll be right back after these words.
For more Behind the Law, including past episodes, check out our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Gregory and Clark.
Is there tax implications here on money that you get from the government on a settlement for real estate?
Ask your question live. Tune into FM 96.5 WDBO Sundays at noon and ask Justin your question. Justin Clark will be right back with more Behind the Law. Welcome back to Behind the Law with Justin Clark, the show that takes you behind the law and answers your toughest legal questions.
Welcome back to the show. Yes, this is Behind the Law featuring Justin Clark of Gregory and Clark, attorneys at law. Offices in Longwood. We'll get the websites, and the phone number is 321-282-1055 at the office. That's 321-282-1055. You want to call the office anytime. In fact, there are even associates standing by right now to talk to you. If you want to talk to Justin Clark, who's got information that no one else on the air has right now, 407-297-9696 or 855-297-9696. Somehow, some way, Justin has done the research and come up with the reasons and the descriptions of the type of settlements that are coming out of just one of several different settlements between the U.S. government and financial institutions, all based on the foreclosure mess that we've been in for about the past 3.5-4 years.
People are getting between $300 and $125,000. The $125,000 is the most you can get. So as you can imagine, not a lot of people are getting the $125,000, but I can in fact tell you exactly how many people are going to be receiving a check for $125,000. And why that they are receiving it.
All right.
Let's start with service members. They take very seriously you jerking around people who are serving our country outside of this country, and you're going to foreclose on their home. They don't like that very much, as you can understand why. And there are, in fact, laws in place to prevent that. So if Bank of America or whoever the servicer was foreclosed on a borrower eligible for Service Members Civil Relief Act, meaning you're in the Army or Marines and you're overseas, you foreclosed on them against that act, that person who lost their home, who was overseas, is going to get $125,000.
That will help.
But you're also going to get $125,000 if you were a person who was paying your mortgage, paying it the whole time, and the bank decided, whatever, we're going to foreclose on the guy anyway. So if you were foreclosed upon wrongfully, you were current on your mortgage, you're the other person that qualifies for $125,000. And I see this a lot of times too. If you're in bankruptcy, the bank cannot foreclose unless they ask the bankruptcy court to allow them to foreclose, okay? We try to keep it in simple terms. So let's say that the servicer, whether it was Bank of America, ASE, whoever it was, actually completed a foreclosure on you while you were in bankruptcy, which they can't do. $62,500 coming in the mail. So, I mean, we're talking about real money here on a lot of these. Now, the vast majority is going to be $300, $600, $800, but there are some real issues here, and they're really making these banks pay some real money this time, and I like it. Now, let's say that you were working with your bank and they gave you a forbearance plan. Forbearance is exactly what it sounds like. They're going to forbear from taking your home, dude. They're going to forbear from coming to take your house. Let's say you had an agreement with the bank, and they called you and said, don't worry, we're going to do a forbearance on this house right now. And then they go ahead and foreclose on you. $24,000 coming in the mail. So, I mean, I like it. Let's say that the servicer completed the foreclosure on the borrower who was performing all the requirements of the written trial period, $50,000. Your modification request was approved, and they still come foreclose on you.
How many calls do we get on that?
All the time.
We got them for so many months right here on this show.
Oh, yeah. And
wow.
You're going to get real money for that. Your modification request was received by the bank, but then they just, blah, 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 never got back to you. No decision ever made. It's $800.
Is there tax implications here on money that you get from the government on a settlement for real estate?
That is a great question, actually.
No idea.
I'm glad you brought it up. you are going to get a 1099 for the settlement in all likelihood. Now, you're going to have to talk to your CPA about it. The 1099 is going to come at the end of this year, at the end of 2013. So you're going to have to deal with it during your 2014 tax season. But I think we might have some tax implications depending on how your CPA is going to allocate this money. I mean, is this mortgage interest that you think that you paid, but they're saying you didn't, but we really paid it? There are going to be a lot of issues, but we are going to have to deal with the tax consequences of this, no doubt about it.
We're going to continue our conversation on this. Checks coming in the mail. We're finally getting something out of those settlements we kept hearing about on the news all these months. You're Behind the Law, and you're right here on News 96.5 and WRDQ TV 27.
Behind the Law is pre-recorded for TV. You can ask your questions live on the radio Sundays at noon on News 96.5. And if you need legal advice right now, Justin has associates standing by. Just call the offices of Gregory and Clark at 321-282-1055.
The first 100,000 people who got checks went to Huntington National Bank, which is where they deposited the entire $3.6 million. And guess what they were told?
Stay tuned. Justin Clark will be right back with more Behind the Law. Welcome back to Behind the Law with Justin Clark, the show that takes you behind the law and answers your toughest legal questions.
Welcome back to Behind the Law, featuring Justin Clark, airing on News 96.5 and on WRDQ TV 27. If you've got a question, call the office at 321-282-1055. That's 321-282-1055. Justin Clark started the show today by talking about the fact that a lot of you are getting checks in the mail. Some of these checks are authentic. They are real. This is not a bogus deal of somebody trying to get in your bank account or get your bank number, your Social Security number, or ID theft. This is a real check from a settlement. So if you have had a foreclosure, well, there's chances are you might be getting a check here in Florida, and that's good news.
A couple million people in the last week or so have already gotten a check from Rust Consulting. It's the independent foreclosure review. They hired a company called Rust Consulting to actually send the money out. So don't get confused. It's a real check. It's real money. And the other 2 million people across the country, and a lot of people in Central Florida, man, let me tell you, a lot of people in Central Florida will be getting their check in the next couple weeks as well. This check is going to be between $300 and $125,000.
Wow.
This is real money. You need to deposit this check immediately. You have 90 days to deposit it or cash it. Again, I think if it's $300, I want you to cash it and go get a steak meal. Go get a steak dinner, okay? If it's more money, let's deposit it and use it a little more wisely. But $300, let's go have a glass of wine and get a steak.
Is there a federal website that has a list of the people who were sent checks so they can kind of check and then go to the post office in, Eustis, Mount Dora, Tavares, and go, hey, I was supposed to get this. Do you know where that check went?
I do. There are two good websites you can go to get some of these questions answered, or, of course, call me as well. FederalReserve.gov is a good place to start, or rustconsulting.com. Now, people have been asking me about this a lot lately. Who is this Rust Consulting? All they do is they're really an administrator for sending out large chunks of money. So big law firms hire them to do class action settlements to actually administer the money. And that's all they are. They don't really have any sort of connection to the government or any of the review process whatsoever. That was all done by the Federal Reserve and by this independent foreclosure review. But your check will say Rust Consulting. But I got to tell you a funny story. The first group of checks go out April 12th, I believe. You're not going to believe this. The first 100,000 people who got checks went to Huntington National Bank, which is where they deposited the entire $3.6 million. And guess what they were told? The check's no good.
Oh.
All of the checks bounced, man. The first time, every one of the checks bounced. Can you believe it?
So we still don't have this whole foreclosure thing down right as a country, do we? We're just not getting it done.
They're assuring us that everything's set now and the money is there, but
that
the
is
first
comical.
Round of checks bounced. And it's just really a synopsis of what's gone on the last few years with this whole foreclosure crisis and what a mess it's been. But apparently the money is good now. So if you have gone to your bank to try to cash the check or deposit the check, go ahead and do it again. And there are phone numbers on the Rust Consulting website you can call to try to figure that out. All
right, let's go to Mike in Deltona. Mike, how can we help you on the show today? You're on the air with Justin Clark. Go ahead.
Hi, gentlemen. How are you today?
Doing good.
Good. Hey, listen, I really don't have a question, but I listen to the show almost every week, either when I'm driving around town or on my way to work. And I just really want to thank you both for the service that you provide to the Central Floridian. I learn a lot of things just listening to the show. And as for all the experts on 96.5, I learn a lot from everybody. And I just really want to say thank you for both of you for giving your time and providing the service that you do to us. I even learned some life lessons listening to everybody here, and I really do appreciate what you do.
Well, that's really nice. Thank you so much for calling in with that, Mike from Deltona. And I tell you what, you want to add all that together and put it right here on Justin Clark, because not only is he providing a great public service every Sunday on the radio, Saturdays on TV, but, the law firm is investing in that time. So, I mean, their personnel time, the education they pass along, but also investing money in this airtime. So it's very, very nice service, and you don't see a lot of people around Orlando doing that. So it's a very, very good service.
People think I'm out of my mind, Rob, actually, because I don't know if you know, I actually go into my office on Saturdays, too, and I meet new clients. I really think I might be half decent at golf, or like I have some real hobby if I didn't do this Saturday appointment and then this radio show on Sunday. But I love it. I love spending time with you and helping the people of Central Florida.
We have a good time. Plus, I love that new TV commercial you got with you sitting on the porch.
Oh, yeah?
That's kind of cool.
It's becoming a famous house, I think.
I think so, yeah. People driving up in front, taking a picture. The celebrity tours, the bus.
No, we're not. I don't think we're quite there yet. But,
well, that's going to do it for this edition of Behind the Law. Tune in next week when, again, we get to visit with Orlando's favorite attorney, Justin Clark. Now, during the week, if you have a question for the law firm, there are associates standing by. And the number to call is 321-282-1055. That's 321-282-1055. We'll see you next week on Behind the Law.
Thank you for watching Behind the Law with Justin Clark. Be sure to join us again next week as Justin takes you behind the law and answers your legal questions.